Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 5 Minutes of Math. And this is the homework for January 23rd, 2018. And before we get started, I wanted to give you guys a hint on how to graph an inequality. If you look at x is less than 5, the direction of the greater than less than sign matches the arrow on the number line. And what do I mean by that? If I graph x is less than 5, do you see how the less than sign points to the left? Well, so does the arrow on the number line. And this trick will always work as long as you remember to keep that variable on the left hand side. So as long as you have something that looks like x is less than or greater than, or less than in this case, less than 5, see those red arrows? They'll match. The directions will match as far as which way they point. If that was x is greater than 5, we would have it flipped around so that the blue arrow would point the other direction, and so would the greater than sign. Now, if you use that trick, make sure the variable's on the left, not the right, when you're comparing, when you have your inequality written down. So this graph is incorrect. 9 is greater than x. If you use this trick and your variable's not on the left, you put it on the right, it won't work. All right. So if I write down not x is less than 9, again, that trick actually does work. And remember, if you decide, this is the second tip, if you decide to turn your inequality around, be sure the larger value remains on the open side of the greater than less than sign. So let's take a closer look at that. If we look at 5 is greater than x, it's the same as x is less than 5. And see how the open side remains the same? 7 is less than or equal to y is the same as y is greater than or equal to 7. 4x plus 3 is greater than y, the same as y is greater than, or I'm sorry, less than 4x plus 3. All right, so make sure you keep your greater value on the open side of whatever sign you're using. So let's look at 6x plus 14 is greater than 20. First thing we do is subtract 14 from both sides, and that's a subtraction property of inequality. Now, the properties of equality and the properties of inequality are very similar, and I'll point out when you need to notice the differences. So we subtract 14 from both sides. We have 6x is greater than 6. Divide both sides by 6, that's the division property of inequality. We end up with x is greater than or equal to 1. And there's our graph. We have a closed circle and our arrows match. All right, arrows off to the right. So that's this problem. Let's move on to the next one. 5x plus 6 is greater than 71. And first move we're going to make is the subtraction property of inequality, where we subtract 6 from both sides. And we combine like terms by subtracting 6, and we end up with 5x is greater than 65. Now, the division property of inequality says go ahead and divide by 5 on both sides. We end up with x is greater than 13. That's an open dot, and we graph to the right, and here's our arrows pointing the same direction. All right. Now, going on to the next one. 6x minus 3 is greater than 33. All right, so going to 6x minus 3 plus 3 is greater than 33 plus 3. That's the addition property of inequality. We combine our like terms by adding 3 to both sides. So 6x is greater than 36. Divide by 6, and we end up with x is greater than 6. Now, that's an open dot. It's greater than, so we're graphing off to the right-hand side, and our arrows once again match. All right. All right, moving on to the next one. Number 11, 16 is greater than 2x plus 4. Now, I told you that the variable needs to be on the left-hand side for our arrows to match, so I'm just going to flip it around, and I make sure that I keep our bigger value, 16, on the open side of our sign, so that becomes 2x plus 4 is less than 16. All right, so now we can subtract 4 from both sides. That's the subtraction property of inequality, and we end up with 2x is less than 12. Now, 2x divided by 2 is less than 12 divided by 2. We end up with x is less than 6. So when we graph this open circle, graph to the left this time, and our arrows match. X is less than 6. Okay, so there's our graph. Number 12, 4x minus 15 is less than or equal to 5. So the addition property of inequality allows us to get rid of that 15, so add 15 to both sides. We have 4x is less than or equal to 20. Divide both sides by 4, and what we end up having is x is less than or equal to 5. And that's a closed dot. We're going to graph all the way to the left because that's less than. And once again, our arrows match. All right, our directionality matches. So I hope this made sense, and we will continue to practice inequalities tomorrow. You guys have a great day, and thank you so much for joining us. All right, have a good one. I'll talk to you in I'll talk to you in 24 hours.